Okay, and I've done one more presentation here, again, to prep you for the upcoming Chapter 12 test. And again, it's on an area of grammar, and it's when do we use the present tense versus a subjunctive tense in Spanish, okay? And so you've got to become aware. First of all, you should know how to conjugate a verb in the subjunctive tense, and we went through this. This is explained well in your textbook. But if you recall, verbs that end in AR will have E endings, okay? And verbs that end in ER and IR will have A endings. So that will pretty much tip you off right away how to form the subjunctive if you're in the right area. Um, Furthermore, the subjunctive, when you're forming it, a good rule of thumb is to use the yo form, the yo present form of the verb. Okay, and so you drop the o of the yo form of the verb, and then you add on your subjunctive endings. Okay, so for example, like a verb like comer, it's an ER verb, it's going to have A endings. Okay, and so if in the present tense, I would say yo como, I eat, or I am eating. If I want to form the subjunctive, just drop the O of the present tense, the yo present tense, and I get com, and now add on your A endings. Que yo coma, que tú comas, que él coma, que nosotros comamos, que ellos coman. And it's a good rule of thumb to develop or form the present subjunctive from the yo form of the verb, because as you may remember, there's many verbs. They're called the irregular yo verbs. They're only irregular in the present tense in their yo form. So if you, for example, decir, it's digo. All right, so if I drop the o of digo and I want to say it, and I want to get the subjunctive form, que yo diga, I drop the o and I put on, it's an I verb, so I put on a endings. So it's very helpful in forming the subjunctive. Look at the verb hacer. It's yo hago. Drop the o of the yo form and put on my a endings. Que yo haga, que tú hagas, que nosotros hagamos. So what I want to point out here is that's how I like to form the present subjunctive. Let's go though and just look now uh, at the type of question you will have on your exam. Okay, so you're going to be given a situation, a sentence, and you're going to be given a verb in the infinitive form, and you're going to either have to conjugate it in the present tense or in the subjunctive tense, and that's up to you. And we already went through this. This is explained very well in your book. When do we use the subjunctive, and when do we just use the regular present? Okay, so normally we'll be using and speaking in the regular present, but there are certain situations that trigger the use of the subjunctive. So when we're giving somebody a recommendation, I recommend that you go, I recommend that you eat, we use the subjunctive. Okay, in the second clause, we're going to take that verb, whatever it is, I recommend that you eat. We'll take that verb eat and we put it in the subjunctive. All right. I advise you to sleep more. Okay, so if you advise, recommend somebody to do something, it will trigger the use of the subjunctive in the second clause. Also, if you desire or want something, I want you to come over at 6. So in that second clause, that verb come would be in the subjunctive. I want you to come. Okay, or I don't want you to come. All right, so um, uh, Or you might ask somebody to do something. I'm requesting that you go to school on time. I'm requesting that you eat more. So pedir will also trigger the use of the subjunctive. So whenever you want, querer, pedir, okay, desear, when you desire, want something, whenever you make a recommendation, it's going to trigger the use of the subjunctive. Okay. Also, there are certain sentences, for example, certain um, clauses like it is necessary, okay, it is necessary that you go to bed early. Again, the verb in that second clause will be in the subjunctive. It's kind of giving somebody a command. In fact, if you look at the subjunctive, uh, you will see that it's used in the usted and ustedes in the formal commands. That's your subjunctive tense. If you go back, I think it's in chapter 6 where we learned the formal commands. That's the subjunctive tense is being used there. Okay, so let's take a quick look at these sentences. So let's see what it says here. Number 1. Si tienes una infección, los médicos recomiendan. So if you have an infection, the doctors recommend que tú tomar antibióticos. So the doctors recommend that you take antibiotics. We got to conjugate that verb take. Very easy to conjugate. But do I conjugate it in the present or in the subjunctive? Is it going to be que tú tomas or que tú tomes? It's going to be tomes. Why? They're recommending. So again, whenever you recommend something, the second verb to follow in the new clause, que tú tomes, because it's a recommendation. It triggers the subjunctive immediately. Look at number 2. Los médicos piensan que los antibióticos matar las infecciones. So to matar is to kill. So it's saying what? The doctors believe or think that antibiotics kill infections. Is that present tense? Are we going to conjugate matar in present tense or in the subjunctive? Present tense. No subjunctive is required. Okay? This is what they think. This is what they believe. It's not what they want. It's not what they're demanding. They're not recommending it. They believe it. They think this. So we just use the simple present tense. Matan. Que los antibióticos matan. Look at number 3. Los jugadores esperan que ellos. Okay. So here we have the players hope that ellos ganar el campeonato. So ganar is to what? To win the championship. So they hope that they win the championship. And I didn't mention this at the beginning. I didn't go into all the aspects of the subjunctive, but you should have these mastered by now. But remember, not only when we want something or we request something do we use the subjunctive or we recommend, we also, when we hope for something, when we wish for something to happen, we use the subjunctive in the second clause. So the players hope that they, and I have to put it now in the subjunctive, ganen. It's in the subjunctive because esperar, any wish or hope, immediately triggers the subjunctive. Look at the next one. Los médicos dicen que es necesario que nosotros comer bien. So it's saying the doctors say that es necesario que. It's necessary that we eat well. Are we going to use the subjunctive here or just the plain present tense? Well, it's in your book, and I did mention it. Whenever you have a strong statement like that, like this, it is necessary that, you have to use a subjunctive. So right there, that just remember this. Es necesario, okay, immediately triggers the subjunctive. Okay, nosotros comamos. All right. And again, it's an ER verb. It's going to have an A ending. And then let's look at 5. Los médicos esperan que ellos poder erradicar el COVID. So what are we trying to say here? The doctors hope that they poder, what does that mean? Can erradicar el COVID. That they hope that they can eradicate COVID. Now, how am I going to conjugate poder? Present tense or subjunctive? Which one? Well, they hope, esperar, desear. They trigger what? The subjunctive. So, que ellos puedan. It's an ER verb, but it's in the subjunctive, so it has an an ending. Finally, muchos creen que nosotros poder erradicar el COVID. So what is it saying here? Many believe that we can eradicate COVID. What am I going to do with poder, the verb to be able to, or the can, could verb? Is it going to be in the present tense or the subjunctive? Just the present tense, right? They believe that's not any sort of recommendation, it's not any obligation, it's not any wish, they just believe it. So it's a simple present tense. Muchos creen que nosotros podemos, present tense, erradicar el COVID. And with that, I think I've covered the type of question you're going to have on your exam. I think it's very easy. It's pretty straightforward. Best of luck.